Kennedy Zziwa is the proprietor of a popular saloon in Kisementi. His struggle with alcohol and drug addiction began when he was a freshman at the university at the age of 18.
I started with a small beer, and then I ended up having 2, I ended up having 4. As you know, as you keep drinking, you keep upgrading the number of drinks that you're having. Until when I got a point, after my graduation, even up to now, I don't remember what happened in my graduation night. I just woke up with shoes missing, my jacket missing, and everything missing.
At the age of 24, his addiction took a nasty turn when at a party with a group of friends, he indulged in cocaine. It's an experiment that came with grave consequences.
It would make me feel strong, empowered, and very smart. I felt like I had ideas, great ideas. I felt like I could have a solution to everything in the world, and I was always right.
He became hooked to the drug.
Addiction takes over your life. You get to a point whereby drugs are your god. It's your body, it's your life. You cannot eat, whether you lose appetite, definitely, but you cannot eat without taking drugs. You cannot operate without taking drugs. You can't go to work without using drugs, and you can't even sleep with your lover without drinking or using drugs. But then you get that point whereby they've taken over your body, they've taken over your relationships, they've taken over your finances, they've taken over your entire life. Isolation. I was away from my parents, I was talking to my mother. I'd broken up with my wife. I was fighting with my family every day, my employees, and even my clients. I even remember throwing out a client out of the shop one day because the client said something that triggered the anger out of me.
Tired of his dependence to the drug, one particular night began his journey to recovery.
That night I was planning to use just 3 grams of cocaine. Then the friend I was using with, I think, we had 3 bags. Then 1 bag disappeared. And when I got home, because I had already put in my head that I was going to use 3, and I never used to move with cash on me, I called the dealer and I went to him and he asked me for my phone in exchange for drugs, but I would pay him the next day. And I gave him my phone, and when I gave my phone, I realized that I cannot exchange an iPhone for just 1 gram. A gram goes for 100,000. So I asked for 3 instead of 1. When I got home, and when I was using, that's when I asked myself, like, when did I get this point of exchanging items for drugs? And that time as I was using the entire night, I said to myself, this is it, I can't get to this point. Because the next thing you know, you're mortgaging whatever it is that you have, all your property.
At dawn and too drunk to drive after consuming 3 large-sized bottles of whiskey, peppered with 5 grams of cocaine and marijuana, a friend came to his rescue. He drove him to rehabilitation. It
wasn't the Utalika that I imagined. Like the green things, everything was beautiful. And I said to myself, like, this is it. Like, I have to stay here.
He spent 30 days at the hospital.
Every time I look at where I am now, today, and where I was then, and all the things that I lost, everything that I lost from my relationships, and also the time that I lost, with my family, especially my mother, and the pain that I put her through, my employees, my brothers, my friends, definitely it's not worth it. When I was in the hospital, my kidney and liver were damaged severely, according to the tests that I did.
There are many moments that he is ashamed of, which is one of the hallmarks of stigma and addiction.
There's an incident where I was driving, and there was a lady driving in front of me. She was driving slowly, and I bashed her car, and the reason was because it was a public road, and I felt like she was driving as if it was a private road. Can you imagine? So I was so angry at her because she was driving slowly. She came out and I told her, Nyabo, it's not a private road. If you feel like you want to drive the way you want to have, get your own road. This is a public road, drive. And I was even yelling at her. She was a mature lady, and she had kids in the car. And then also the fights that I was driving with my wife in public. Even at home they're not as many as possible because we would always lock ourselves up in different rooms. But in public, let's say they're telling you to do something, and you have this ego. As a man, first of all, as an African man, you really have this natural ego. And then imagine when you're using and you're being told what to do. So you end up fighting in public. All of those things. There's so many bad moments. Every night that I try to think about is always terrible. And I won't go much into details. I was also once in prison in China, was arrested for 2 weeks. But it's also still related to drugs, using.
I asked him if it was all right to speak to those who witnessed his addiction.
You can't talk about my using when I was still using here. Those moments, those times. Even Kevin, remember the things you were telling me the other day? The bad times. Okay, the good times. Maybe I used to call them good times. What? Yeah, the scar. You come and tell them.
He used to. Even while working on a client, can you imagine? He would take a sip of his, whatever he was, sipping on.
When he went to rehabilitation, the news was well received.
I knew it was a turning point. Like, oh my God, my brother is going to change. Like, before when you're growing up, like, was really so caring. Like, was this kind of person who needs to look out for us, you understand? Like, maybe something is missing, like, it could come, even paid my tuition at some point. So when I started seeing him, like, wasting himself away, like, I was very hurt. I'm like, what's happening to him? Like, I miss that guy. So I wrote him a letter. And I'm like, hey, brother, I'm so happy. Like, I hope you're going to change. Like what he has said to you before, like he used to waste a lot of money, like he doesn't talk to us. Like he listens to people he's not supposed to be listening to. Like the only people he wanted around, those are the guys who are using stuff with.
24-year-old Natasha Winnie Akot agreed to share her story of addiction. Though she bears a charming smile, the scars of addiction are still fresh. She started using drugs at the age of 20.
I did pethidine, heroin, diazepam, ketamine, and cocaine.
A friend she trusted introduced her to the drugs.
I saw her doing it. On several occasions, like I would see her injecting herself. And every time she injected herself, she would get high, hyper, and like, for me, I was used to getting high on booze. So like, this one time, she blacks out and she tells me, help me out, like, get for me the shot. So I go and I get the syringe and I pull, because it's a 5 ml syringe, and you have to pull about 3 different drugs. So I give it to her, and she asks me, should I give it to you? Like, do you want to try? And I'm like, fear of needles, I first refused. But after some time, I accepted. And when I accepted too, she injected me, and because it was my first, I blacked out there and then. I blacked out, and when I came back, I was all shaking. After some time, she injected me again. And clinical drugs, you get addicted that fast. So I got addicted in just 3 shots.
While she was addicted, her relationship with her family and friends was strained. But that was not the worst to happen to her during her volatile years of dependence.
So I take this drug, and I get a border guy, and I tell him to take me to the pharmacy to get medicine, because I used to get in Kabalagala. And on our way, I black out on his border. So after some time, I wake up and I'm seeing 3 men. But I was so unconscious, like I see them, I wasn't seeing them well, the drug was working. So when I woke up, and they were beating me up, like go back. I was fighting while I was high. I was fighting and telling me, go back down in Uganda, go back down, go back down. I tried to fight, but so sometimes they got their way and used me. When I woke up, my panty was torn, and I was there all bruised up, beaten and in pain.
This happened from her recollection in Namuongo, near the railway line. But this was not the last time she would be abused.
I went to rehab, and I escaped from rehab. Because of course, rehab, you're supposed to be in the same place, no phones, no media, no what. That is rehab. So life was hell. Okay, it seemed hell, but it was helping me. And I'd already been there for 3 months. So I escaped from rehab, and I get out of rehab. And of course, I had to wait till late, like when doctors had stopped giving medicine and things like that. And it was about 1. I was in Mutabika, and that fruit is deadly. So I come, and there's this guy, more of a drunk. That is one of the worst experiences I've ever had. He's drunk, all spitting, and yeah, he uses me. And that is when I sat and I was like, how can a man like this use me? And that was when I was like, you know what, to hell with these drugs. I actually took myself back to rehab at the gate in tears, but when I spoke to my counselor, she was so understanding. She just held me and told me, I hope you've decided. And that was the last time I did it.
After 5 months in rehabilitation, she sought help from counselors who continued to help her on her road to recovery. This December, Winnie will have been clean for 2 years. you for joining us. We're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center, Nile Room. Our guests this evening, I'll start with Winnie Natasha Akot to my very right. Thank you for joining us and for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
And we have Kennedy Zziwa right across. Thank you for joining us, Kennedy.
Thank you for hosting
Zziwa.
me.
I'm going to say Zziwa.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you for hosting me.
All right. You hadn't seen Winnie's story. You didn't even know her story. What are you thinking as you see that?
Well, I'm still in shock. I thought drugs put me in a bad place, but when I listen to her story, I'm still in shock. As I speak right now, I'm still in shock because I think it's the worst place for a female to go through. Like that would be the worst thing that a female can go through. So imagine you're going through the struggles of addiction, and then you also have other cases that are happening. So I think it's the worst thing that can happen to a female.
You've both shared your stories, and it can't be easy to share it because, you know, of course, you've spoken about this, so people look at you when you get out and all of that. Is it part of therapy talking about it? Does it help in any way?
To me, it helps a lot. Like, it's a way, like, I heal, and I wouldn't want what happened to me to happen to someone out there. So when I feel I've shared something, someone maybe will say I should get off these drugs before what happened to her happened. I would really, yes, it wasn't a good experience, but I would want it to stop on me, not to any other person.
Also, in my case, it's therapy for me. Because every time I tell people that I'm clean for, let's say, every time I share my story, and I tell people that I've been clean for 100 days, even if I get the cravings to go and get drunk, I definitely can't even do it in public because I know people will be watching. So for me, it's therapy. I have to keep reassuring people and reassuring myself by sharing my story with people. And also to help the people out there that may also be going through a similar situation.
You've been clean 100 days or more?
160 days, roughly.
160 days.
Yes.
Winnie, you're making 2 years.
31st December, I'll be making 2 years.
How does that feel?
Nice. It's a birthday gift.
Is your birthday on 31st December?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow. So you came out on your
I went
birthday?
to rehab, and I think I came out the day I decided this is the last time I'm doing drugs was my birthday, thanks to my best friend Kate Ferry, who helped me out. And yes, so it is easy to count because of my birthday.
I know your best friend is here somewhere.
Yes, she is. She's there.
Do you think she wants to wave at us, or should we just let her be?
She wants.
She wants to wave, right? Okay, there she is. How easy is it to get drugs? Because I know marijuana sometimes you get from the street, right?
Yeah.
But these drugs you're talking about, how easy is it to get them?
It's not really easy, but all you have to do is maybe like have one supplier. Once you've gotten a supplier, it becomes very easy for you to get it.
So you get a supplier through somebody who introduces you to the
Yes,
to the
through
to the
someone
drug.
who introduced you.
Okay.
So the moment you know someone, it's like a network. You just need to know one person and then you know it all. You know all of them. So the moment you introduce to just one person, then you know all of them. Even border guys, you just call them and they drop off at your house.
They drop the drugs at your house?
Yeah, in my case, there is a border guys that I had 3 border guys. In case one was sleeping, I would call another one. Because remember, the drugs keep you awake the entire night. So 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., you're calling a border guy, waking him up with his family. But you don't even care about him. So they always drop them off at my gate.
So okay, I have so many questions, but let's take a short break and we'll be right back. Nile Room. And we have Winnie and Zziwa who are sharing their stories of drugs and addiction. So I wanted to know, what pushed you to take drugs in the first place? Was it a void? Was it the company you were keeping? What put you in that place?
For my case, in the beginning, it was for fun, just for recreation. Because when I tried them out, I enjoyed the heights. I was persuaded by a friend. But then, as time went on, like when I came back to Uganda, I was working. I was doing chayo in China for a while. So when I came back here, like the pressure of living in a foreign country, like the culture shock, working under so much pressure. Remember, the culture here is different. So when I was there, when I tried out the height, the drinking every single night is what kept me going every day, because I used to work a lot. Then the alcohol kept me alive, and then the cocaine kept me stronger physically, because it helps you with your physical state. Then when I came back here, it was also a different story. I just gotten married. I just set up a business, and then I just started associating with new friends, socialites. So the partying, the pressure was still high again. So I started drinking, using again. So it was the pressures of society.
Do you keep the same company?
Yes, yes, I do.
How then do you manage to keep away?
Well, in my case, I can't change my friends because of my work. It's the same people that I was working on. It's still, most of them are my clients. And that's how I met them. So I still have the same clients.
Okay.
Mm.
So you said a friend introduced you as well.
Yes.
What does a friend convincing you sound like?
Okay, now it seems stupid. But at that time, I had this thing of, I want to know how she feels when she takes it. Because like she takes it and then she's all hyper and then after some time she blacks out and yeah, so I wanted to feel that. So that is when I did.
Okay. Were you guys hiding when you were taking it? Did your family and friends know?
No.
In the beginning, I was hiding. Then later on in the advanced stages, I stopped hiding. I started doing it in public, even in the salon when clients were watching sometimes.
Wow. Winnie?
Me in the beginning, yes, I was hiding. And then after when I left that friend of mine and I left her and I went to live with my best friend and I made up a story. The funny thing, they would get for me the drugs, but they never knew they were getting me.
The drugs for
Yes.
Okay.
It's because they were getting them from a clinic, so they didn't know they were getting me, like, because it's a clinical cocaine. So I was using them to get for me, and they would do everything possible to get the drug.
So what was this story you told them that
I had a kidney problem.
you had a kidney problem?
And nobody even cared to ask me for documents or what. And after some time, they started to sense, like, it's not, like, after taking, I would lose my mind. I'm not saying things that are connecting, I'm rude, I'm what and what. So that's when they started to know that, no, something is not right about this drug.
So did you ever come out and say to anybody, your families? How did they know, the family?
Me, I think they got to know now when I had started losing practically my mind. I would not sleep at home. Time reached where I was always running away. I go home, my aunties would get me and put me home, but I would run away. Like, I wanted to be around drugs. The whole night. You find me on a Monday in this cloth, you find me on Sunday in the same cloth. I would not sleep, like he said, you'd keep awake the whole time.
So where are you the whole of this time if you're not at home?
Moving around, looking for who next is going to get for me the drugs.
So at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you're moving around?
Yes. That, you don't even know that time is going.
Okay.
You just realize, oh, it's morning. Okay, let me find a place, maybe remove things from my eyes and continue.
Zziwa, you were constantly fighting with your brothers. I remember that. Your brother told me. What did they try to do? What interventions did they
I'm a firstborn, and I'm a boss at work. So you always have this thing like you're the best, you're on top. So you never listen to anybody below you. My brothers were always, they got to find out that I was using. I didn't know that they knew it. I came out to them during rehab that I was using. But it was during rehab when they told me like they knew, they could see the finances that I was spending a lot of money. So they knew that it was going on drugs. So during that time, it's always a very sensitive topic to discuss with your family. So they didn't know how to approach me because I was very, very protective, very defensive, and always in a fight every single day. But our fights would start from la 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 to punches. We have a lot of scars. I have a lot of scars because of the fights that we used to have. So the intervention mostly was they never knew how to handle my situation. They didn't know how to start until when I realized myself like I had the problem, till when I checked into rehab. But in my case, they didn't know how to start or where to start from.
Okay. Well, you both mentioned alcohol. What is the correlation between alcohol and drugs?
Alcohol, when I went to rehab, I went there to quit drugs because I knew drugs had a problem. I thought alcohol is a normal thing. We live in a culture where alcohol is normal. It's part of our society. It's part of our everyday lives. And we never know that it's a problem. So when I went there, we always know that it's only drugs that have a problem. So when I got there, I wanted to stop the drugs. But after the 2 weeks of not drinking, I realized that I don't even have cravings for drugs at all. So whenever I would drink, that's when I would have the cravings for drugs. So that's when I decided to quit drinking.
So
completely.
The alcohol was the enabler for the drugs?
Yes, for me it would give me cravings. Even now, even if I have just one shot, I think I would start having cravings.
Okay,
but as long as I'm sober.
Well, this is water.
Yes, it's
so
water.
Just or tea. Winnie, what about you? getting high on booze at first, you said?
Yeah, I would get high on booze, only spirits. I never did beers. And I was very, very bad at taking spirits. Like, whenever I would take I think the first time I took the shot of the drug, I was high on booze. So, you know, I had this thing of I'm not scared of anything. When I was sober, I feared the needles. But then when I was high on booze, it looked like, you can't do this. So alcohol made it easy for me. Though after, when I kept on doing drugs, I stopped taking alcohol because the drugs I was on and alcohol don't meet.
But okay, so you were able to say, I'll give up alcohol for...
Yeah, whether I wanted it or not. Like, I had to give up. I felt more high on this other thing than on alcohol. When I mix, I either throw up and things like that. So I knew they don't mix. So I decided, let me go.
You were 20 years old, right?
Yeah, when I
started. When you started. Were you in school? What
yeah,
was
I was in
happening in your
school.
life? Did you continue with school?
No, I didn't.
You dropped out of school?
Yes, I did.
At what point was this in school?
I'd started doing a course, and I just like that, go school, come back home, have parents think you're in school and you're not. You get? You lie to them, I'm in school, and at the back of their faces, you're doing something else. So they got to find out all these things in rehab. That is when they're like, oh, so this and this and this and this and this and this. Yeah.
You were working, Zziwa, or were you said you were doing chair away?
Yeah, in China, I was doing chair.
So
when I started, the first time I did.
So you're doing chair, and you're in school. How are you able to pay the cost of the drugs? How are you able to maintain the habit?
For me, at first, the person I was living with would provide it for me. And then when I left, that is how I got to my best friend and making up a story, the kidney story. So when I found out that they had found out about the truth, I left. I could not go back to home because they knew there is nothing. She has like a complication like this, you get. So what I used to do is get a border guy, buy for me drugs, and he gets for me drugs, get a special hire guy, and you find a way of running.
So
basically,
you don't pay them?
Yes, like, okay, I was ashamed to say it that time, but now I know I'm not ashamed. I would con to get the drugs. And you don't give me your money, you go and buy it yourself. So that in case of anything, I say, you bought it, did you give me money? Like, you know, addicts will always have a smart brain, like.
Okay. So how much, if I may ask, would it cost you?
In a day, I would spend about 200 and something thousand.
Wow. In one day, 200
Yes.
plus thousand.
Because one drug, like pethidine, a shot is 15,000. So I would inject myself over 50 times. About 30, 40, 50 times. My family is my witness. All my arms, my thighs, my hands, all were full of wounds.
You must be a very special con woman. 200,000 every day.
No, not one person. You come to this person and you get, and you know, they will look at you, you're all in wounds. They'll be like, maybe alikumpi kufa, you get.
Bambi, let's help her.
Bambi.
Okay.
Kumbe Bambi is not the Bambi. So basically, yeah, that's how I used to get it. So yeah, anyway, I feel bad for what I did, like that time. I really feel bad. Someone is earning their money in sweat and you're doing that.
You're doing that.
But yeah.
Zziwa, you said one gram, right? Was 100,000 shillings?
Yeah, because there are two types of cocaine. There is a pure cocaine and the residue cocaine, which they call the crack cocaine. But I was doing the pure cocaine because it's what I was introduced to that side. And that side, a gram was going for $100. When I came to Uganda, $100 is 300,000, around 300,000.
About 350.
When I came back to Uganda, I was getting the pure cocaine, the same quality, even better quality, at 100,000. So I was getting 3 grams for the price of one that I was used to the other side. So I was doing, so for me, I was in heaven.
How could you afford this?
Chinyozi.
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 So you were, okay, were you taking money from the shop?
Yes, I was stealing from myself. That's the worst part, because I was stealing from myself. I used to get car punctures every day. Car punctures. I would always go to the cashier and say Mpira Jabise every day. So I would go get the cheaper version from the gas stations. A car tire goes like around 20,000, so I would always lie that I had a puncture. Then I would buy one of 50,000. But then some cases I would just yell, pull up the power hand and say, the boss, percent design. But I was stealing from myself. And I was using, because for me it was alcohol, drugs, alcohol and cocaine. Alcohol alone I used to have lots of friends. So we used to get at least 3 grams per day and then 6 grams of cocaine. So around 600,000 per day on average.
600,000 a day?
Yes, on average. Yeah, that's how much damage.
Okay. Well, how hard is it to keep away from the drugs now? I mean, you take them because they make you feel good, right? So now, no one wants to let go of a good feeling.
No, for me, after knowing all the pain it cost me, I wouldn't want to go back to that pain.
There's no temptation.
Temptations come, that's the truth. That's the truth, I won't lie. Someone will come and piss you off and you're like, this person has found I am not high. If I was high, I would have. That saying that, you feel you're shaking, you're what. But me, what helped me was I got saved. So when I got saved, anytime I would feel I wanted to take those drugs, I would go on my knees and I'm like, God, I can't do this alone. And I find it was very easy.
What helped you?
For me, it's I got to a point, cocaine is an upper. But every time I would use it, I got to a point of depression. Every time I would use it, I would get depressed instead of getting happy. So I would call people and ask them, why is it, I would call my dealer and ask him why he's selling me fake things. Because I thought that it was selling the fake things. I asked him why he was punching the cocaine. And then until when I realized that it was causing depression, then I started, I would call my mother in the night crying over the phone, I'm sorry, I'm a failure. I'm sorry for disappointing you. I'm sorry, apologizing to everyone, all your friends. Like you felt like a loser or something like that. Until when I started seeing, when I go to rehab, because it's rehab that helped me. So when I go to rehab, I started seeing all the other people, the other patients who are going through a worse situation than I was in. And I said to myself, I don't want to be those people. And now, when I'm sober, I definitely love the new me compared to the other one.
And I know you're constantly going to the hospital to speak to people and to take people actually there.
Yes, many people always reach out to me in my inbox asking for help. They don't know how to deal with the situation. Because the truth is, most of the families here don't know how to handle the addiction problem that most of the youth have here.
Okay, but so you're going to tell me a bit more about how you help people. Okay. Let's first take a break and we'll be right back.
All right.
Real?
Voices.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We are coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center Nile Room. I wanted to ask, before we close, what has been your support system?
It's been my work.
Your work?
Yeah, my work, my clients, my family, and my cat, Talis.
Your cat, your famous cat, Talis?
Yeah, cat. I have a cat at home, so every time I see it, it makes me happy. I don't know how to explain it, but I discovered my love for animals. So I have this cat that every morning feeding it, because I have to go back home to feed it, and then also have to get up early in the morning to feed it. So I'm always, it's kind of part of my support system.
So it's been family?
Yeah, it is family.
Pets,
yeah, my family, my clients, my work. And every time I work on clients now, every time I get, my clientele is growing, so every time I get new clients, the happiness that they get to see me sober, and then also the other recovering addicts, because now they're looking up to me, and it gives me the power to also stay clean.
Okay.
For me, mostly the people that have made it so easy for me are my counselors. One of them is there, Bill Bekunda.
Bill Bekunda.
And he has been a dad. And Bahati Hilda and Sarah. And then my family. My family, my aunties most especially, have really played a big role. And my best friend, Ferry. And yeah, looking at people every day, like coming up with stories that I've been through, and it makes me have this thing, no, I have to end this. So yeah.
I know it can be I don't know, but I think it can be very hard to get over the addiction. But now when you also have to go over what happened to you, the sexual violence, how have you managed to deal with that?
Now, you know, like I told you before, my counselors and my family, and then the fact that I gave my life to Christ, And I thank God, yes, it happened, but nothing bad came out of it. Yes, it happened, but not that I got sick, or because that would have been the worst that would have happened to me, like getting sick and what. But I never got sick. So God, maybe it was a lesson and I learned it. So, yeah.
Well, we're glad that you learned it and you're here to share the story.
And I'm happy to be here too.
Zziwa, I would like you to tell us a bit about your work and what you're doing to help young people who come to you and they need help.
At the moment, I'm just helping by guiding them, providing them with information, especially with families, because most cases it's always the families that contact me. So I always forward them with counselors' numbers. I always forward them to Butabika, where we have the counselors, the hospital. Like, it's the process, because most cases they don't know how to start. So I'm just helping them with my story, with my version of the story. And what works for me may not work for another person, but I always share with what worked for me. And I usually go to Butabika and also to encourage the patients there, the ones who are also going through what I went through, to tell them that it's okay to wear the uniform.
Okay. What would you like us to go home with? If you had to say something to someone struggling with something similar, what would you say?
The first thing I should say is whoever is doing drugs outside there, it's a quick way to your coffin before your time, and it's the only way you can be alone without anyone around you. And if you want your life to get back, get off the drugs as soon as possible. It's not easy, but there are people around that can help you get off.
Okay. And in one sentence, very quickly, Zziwa.
Okay. I'll just talk to a message to the fellow addicts out there. I just want to remind them, like, yes, getting high is a very good feeling. It's a great feeling. You can even go and see Jesus. But then this is a short-term feeling. It's a short-term happiness. So when you're sober, the long-term happiness is way much better than the short-term happiness. It's not worth doing it.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you both very much for sharing your stories.
Thank you for hosting us.
And that was our episode of Perspective this week. Thank you for watching. Coming up is NTV Weekend Edition. Keep it NTV.